Welcome to another tutorial. We're going to open up 3dsmax 2019. When it opens up, you're going to go ahead and select Classic. It may ask you Classic or Design. Just select Classic. It's going to give you this introduction, moving around the views. Just got some tips and tricks because it's got some links to some of the videos, because you can download sample files, look up the startup movies, for more information. So we're just going to close this out, and this is our standard interface here. So we're going to start with our menu bar, and this is going to be where you find your most commonly used commands. The next up is going to be this main toolbar. Right? The main toolbar is going to have your most commonly used tools, which includes your move, rotate, and your select and scale. This gray box here with the dotted lines is our Scene Explorer. So when we have objects and cameras and lights, they will all show up inside here. To easily undock this, we can pull out the lines, just click and drag, let go, and then it is now no longer docked. So we can just X this out. Come back to that later. So next up, we have our viewports here. Whenever it's active, it'll be highlighted with this yellow-orange box. Each viewport has its own menu, as you can see here. Each one of these has settings to control the viewport. We do have a view cube here in our viewports, which can be used to rotate a little bit. To be faster, I'd use your mouse and keyboard shortcuts instead, which we'll go over here shortly. So next up, we have our command panel and our ribbon, which are both used to edit selected objects. Now, we currently have 4 viewports, and we can change our layout or workspace 2 different ways. One of them, just for the viewports, we have our viewport layout right here. We can select one of these layouts if we wanted to change this layout. Just something good to use every once in a while, or check it out to see how you like your viewports laid out. And it creates a preset, so we can go back to 4 viewports, or the one that I did with the 3-row. And anytime we want to reset this, our workspace, it's currently default. But we have some options here of selecting the design standard, or if we need to reset it to the default state. If we end up deleting too many windows or whatnot, like we pull this off and delete it, oh no! We'll go to our workspace, reset default state. Now our ribbon will only show the certain tools depending on what object is selected, and also dependent on certain things of the command panel that we'll go over. Next up at the bottom, we have our timeline, and we have this track where we can scrub. If we had animation, we could scrub the animation. We're just going to leave that at 0. We have the Max script for some coding programming. We have our status bar here. We have our isolate selection. We have our lock, which happens quite frequently. If you hit the space bar, it will lock whatever you're working on, and it makes it to where you can't use other tools. And then we also have an absolute mode transform type in. These coordinate systems here, the X, Y, and Z, which is our coordinate system. We have our grid settings currently. We have our playback controls, and then our animation controls here. And then over to the corner we have our navigation controls. And if we have one of our viewports set to a camera instead of perspective, these will actually be our camera controls. So what we're going to do at the moment is go ahead and select this top view and set it to perspective. To move around your viewport, you're going to Alt and middle mouse click so that you can rotate around like so. if you just middle mouse click, you will get the pan tool to move left and right. So if you use your scrolly on your mouse, you will get a kind of choppy zoom in. If you grab your zoom tool down here in the navigation, you can zoom in with more of a smooth zoom. To kind of control, hide, or see your menus here, your different parts of the window, if you go up here to the menu bar, you can right click and you'll see I have them checked by name: command panel, ribbon, so on, right? So we can turn them off if we like the time slider. If I'm not doing animation right now, I could turn that off so that I get a little bit more space. Usually I do that. I like to have as much space as possible if I'm modeling. So you're welcome to go ahead and turn that off if you'd like. Going over to our command panel, the first tab here of the interface is the Create, and this is for creating different things. We have our shapes, we have splines, we have lights, cameras, we have our helpers, we have space warps, and we have these systems. Right, if we go over to modify, now this is if we have something selected, we will get our parameters and other rollouts with settings to change for modifying the object. We have our hierarchy tab, and this is specifically you got like your adjusting your pivots, as well as there's some skinning and adjusting transform. We have the motion tab, so when you have something selected, here we can assign some things for animation. We have our display tab, so for displaying our objects, whether wireframe or shaded, or if we want to hide things, we can also do that as well. So there's hide, and a bunch of different selections, display properties, and then we have our utilities, which have other utilities that we might use.